Hello everybody, welcome to Totally Tabled. My name is Shaggy, and this is Retail Rundown, where I quickly go over the newest soloable board games to hit the retail market, at least where I live in the United States. If I miss a release you feel deserves attention, please give it a mention in the comments below. Let's start with a couple of games that I've recently covered on the channel. First up is Unmatched Adventures Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is the second set of Unmatched Adventures, which is a fully cooperative version of Unmatched that lets you use any of the characters from Unmatched to battle against a villain, in this case either Shredder or Krang. You can also use the turtles from this set in any Unmatched game, and you can even get an expansion that turns Shredder and Krang into playable Unmatched characters. So basically everything is cross-compatible with everything else. If you're unfamiliar with Unmatched, it's a relatively simple card-driven dueling game where, you move around on a board and attack and use special abilities, all by playing cards from your character's unique deck. Unmatched Adventures plays in the exact same way, only this time you're working together in order to fight a big bad guy and their minions. I did a full solo playthrough with 2 turtles against Shredder, so you can watch that to see exactly how the game plays out. I thought it was a blast. The production is fantastic, the card art is so much fun, and if you like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, then I think you'll like this game. And when I compare this to the first box of Unmatched Adventures, I definitely prefer this one. Next is a Carnivore Did It. This is a clever, cooperative logical deduction game in a small box that is quick to set up and play. The premise is simple. Each puzzle has a certain number of suspects, depending on the difficulty level, and each suspect has an assigned statement, like, the horse didn't do it, or a carnivore did it. You're told how many suspects are lying, and with that information, you need to deduce who committed the crime. The starting easy levels are super easy, but they're still really good for, like young kids who are learning basic logical thinking. At the hardest levels, these are tricky, brain-burning puzzles. At least they were for me. The game contains 2,000 different cases, each with only one solution. I personally play this as just a fun activity rather than following the game rules, but either way, if you like logical puzzles, I highly recommend checking out my full solo playthrough. Now let's talk about a few games that I haven't played but caught my eye. First up is Chicago 68, a 1 to 4 player political war game about the Democratic National Convention riots of 1968. I have to admit my knowledge of this episode of American history is limited, but I'm definitely interested to learn more. This game can play solo, competitive, cooperative, or in a team play mode, but it appears to be primarily a 2-player head-to-head battle, with one player taking the role of the establishment and the other the demonstrators. Each side has 2 asymmetric decks of action cards. The establishment uses their decks in order to take actions like activating undercover agents, authorizing tear gas, deploying the National Guard, and coordinating mass arrests. On the other side, the demonstrators can create mischief by directing clashes with the police and completing different mini objectives around the map. I'm usually a bit dubious about solo modes in war games. They often involve complex flowcharts, which is not my favorite form of solo gaming. But from what little I've seen, this solo mode appears to be easier to run. It definitely seems to have a more Euro-y feel, so that's why I'm excited to give this one a try. That's Chicago 68. Animal Rescue Team is a 1 to 4 player cooperative game about rescuing different animals from danger. It's a re-implementation of the board game Thunderbirds from the designer of Pandemic, Matt Leacock. When Thunderbirds first came out, I wasn't interested in it because, well, I'm from America and I never really watched the show, and I also didn't feel like I needed another Pandemic-style cooperative game. But once it went out of print and I started to hear a lot of praise for the mechanisms, I tried to get a copy, but prices were just too outrageous. I've been hoping for a straight reprint, but instead we got this retheme, and I just can't help but feel a little bit disappointed. I realize that's hypocritical. I mean, I didn't buy the game originally because of the theme, so I can't really complain when they change it, but I'm going to anyway. This theme just really isn't doing anything for me. Now, let me be clear before I get hate mail. I love the idea of rescuing animals in real life. I've been a vegetarian for 25 years because I love animals. And I understand that an actual animal rescuer named Lisa Talwell contributed to the design. So I understand that this theme clearly came from the heart. Unfortunately, I already have a game called Rescue Polar Bears, which is also a pandemic-style cooperative game about logistics and, in my opinion, has a more interesting theme. To be fair, the game itself sounds interesting. It's, more of a pick up and deliver affair with the added logistics of needing certain vehicles to deal with certain types of animal rescues. It seems great for families in addition to solo play. So, if you're drawn to the wholesome theme, then this definitely might be one for you to check out. Forestry is a 1 to 4 player medium to medium heavyweight Eurogame about sustainable forest management. In Forestry, you must carefully allocate action points between your two workers, a harvester and a manager. The harvester cuts down trees, replants them, and constructs infrastructure, amongst other actions, while the manager oversees resource collection, fulfills contracts, and improves operations. The game looks beautiful. I'm a sucker for a circular board, and I don't know, this one sounds like it might be right up my alley. March of the Ants Evolved Edition is a new revised version of March of the Ants from 2015. It features new artwork and graphic design, updated mechanisms, and wooden ant meeples. This is a 1 to 5 player 4X Civilization style game, but one about ants, and that plays in only 90 minutes, according to BGG. I never played the original, so I'm excited to get this second chance. Ants from rival nests battling each other is a wonderful theme. I am a little skeptical though, because solo is never the best way to play a 4X game. I've seen some mixed reports about whether it's really worth it or not, so this might not be the best option for only playing solo, but I don't know, we'll have to see. Sanctuary is a re-implementation of Ark Nova for 1 to 5 players that simplifies the gameplay of the original by leaning into the tile laying. Instead of having a massive deck of animal cards, Sanctuary uses a massive stack of hexagonal tiles that represent animals, structures, and projects. You'll draft these tiles and play them on your personal zoo map. Sanctuary also preserves the Action River system from the original, but it has been reduced to 4 cards. 1 card that lets you play projects, and the other 3 cards that let you play animals of different habitats. I love Ark Nova, and the idea of a quicker, easier version is definitely intriguing. Can it compete with Cascadia, Harmonies, and Shallow Sea? That's really the question. Speaking of tile laying, Koi is another nature-themed tile laying game for 1 to 4 players. This time you're building a 3D koi pond with stunning-looking acrylic koi tiles. It appears as if you are drafting different tiles and objective cards and then placing the tiles on multiple layers, maybe somewhat reminiscent of Cascadia. On BGG, it says it, quote, includes a robust solo mode for peaceful solitary sessions, unquote. Once again, I think the question is, will this be able to compete with other quick-playing simple tile layers like Cascadia, Harmonies, and Shallow Sea? Only time will tell. Okay, now let's end things by quickly going over a few new expansions that have hit retail recently. Seti Space Agencies adds a bunch of new cards and features to tweak the base game. You'll be able to play as one of 11 new organizations that will give players asymmetric abilities and starting conditions. As I predicted years ago in my first impressions video on the Leaders expansion for Lost Ruins of Arnak, companies are going to remove asymmetric player abilities from base games in order to sell them in expansion content, and CGE continues to prove me right. Space Agencies also includes quick start cards that let you skip the opening round to speed up the game and add extra asymmetry. I love this idea. It worked fantastically well in terraforming Mars, for example. There are scanning tokens that apparently help improve scanning at lower player counts, and there's also 3 new alien species and over 40 new project cards to increase variability. This looks like another essential expansion by design, just like CGE did with Arnak. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I really like Seti, so I'll probably have to pick this one up at some point. Kinfire Council Winds of Change is a new expansion that adds co-op and solo play to Kinfire Council for the first time. I must admit, I'm not personally familiar with Kinfire Council. It's a 2 to 6 player competitive, or maybe even semi-competitive worker placement game, which also includes voting for different policies that affect the game. It sounds very interactive. Winds of Change also adds legacy-style progression to the base game. It really sounds like this expansion radically changes the gameplay. Galileo Galilei Luna adds a new way to score based on observations of the moon, of course. There are also 4 new playable characters with unique special abilities, and powerful inquisitors that will provide significant rewards if you can successfully persuade them. And lastly, Nucleum Energy Research Institute is the 3rd expansion for Nucleum, which adds 8 new experiments and patron cards with powerful abilities. This expansion is completely compatible with the previous 2 expansions, Nucleum Australia and Nucleum Court of Progress, as well as the patron set promo. And there you go, a bunch of new soloable games hitting retail. Which ones did I miss? Please let me know in the comments below. I'd like to thank all of the financial supporters of Totally Tabled, including the totally radical Mitch Fisher, Hextra, John Kohler, Scott Myers, and Jay Satterwhite, as well as the totally bodacious Narciso Jaramillo. If you're interested in becoming a member, you can join on YouTube or my Patreon at www.patreon.com/totallytabled. You'll gain access to my new exclusive podcast, Table Talk, as well as unboxing videos and whatever extra stuff I come up with. As always, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.